10 Strangest Government Experiments. But first, thanks Luke Fuka for leaving us this comment on our 10 civilizations that vanished mysteriously video. We hope you guys enjoy learning about some of the strange stuff the government is up to. Leave us a comment on which experiment you think is the strangest, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video. Number 10. Pont Saint-Esprit poisoning. The picturesque town of Pont Saint-Esprit in southern France seems like the last place you'd expect a diabolical experiment conducted by the US government. In August of 1951, the small town on the Rhone River was home to a mass poisoning that the French called Le Pain Maudit, or cursed bread, that involved 250 people and resulted in 50 people being housed in asylums with 7 deaths. So what on earth happened here? The US government targeted a town to test a chemical they classified as a deliriant incapacitating agent during the Cold War. The US wanted to find some type of mind-controlling substance, but it went horribly wrong. This took place 1 year after LSD was created in a laboratory. French baguettes were actually sprayed with LSD according to some. The French villagers experienced horrific hallucinations and some died from jumping out of windows while others frantically ran through the streets naked. The boulangeries began throwing away all their baked goods with good reason. This was part of a bigger experiment we'll get to later on this video. Number 9. The Sedan Project. Ever wonder what would happen if you set off a 104 kiloton nuclear bomb about 300 feet underground? Well, so did the scientists who conducted the Sedan Project in 1962. This was conducted on the National Nevada Test Site. Just over the hill lies Area 51. This strange experiment was to see how well nuclear devices could be used for peaceful purposes, such as creating tunnels, reservoirs, mining, and other civilian purposes. Here in this original film, you see the dramatic explosion going off, sending plumes of radioactive dust throughout the sky. It displaced so much material, the states as far away as Iowa and North Dakota experienced nuclear dust storms. Utah was heavily affected, and many residents claimed they can link the explosion to cases of cancer. Unless the goal was creating North America's largest crater, this massive project was a failure. Number 8. Cat spies. During the Cold War, the US government used some animals as guinea pigs in order to advance technology and make sure things were safe for humans. We launched dogs and monkeys into space before we even sent humans. But in this case, we actually tried using cats as spies in a $10 million funded experiment. If you think about it, cats could actually make good spies. They won't tell any secrets if they get captured, everyone loves them, and they don't have an American accent that'll give them away. They spent 5 years trying to properly train the cat for proper espionage tactics. He was equipped with an implanted listening device, a battery, and a tail-based antenna. It all went to waste, however, when the cat bolted under a taxicab and died during the training. No wonder cats seem to hate us. Number 7. St. Louis radioactive exposure. After the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bomb detonations, the government was quite curious on how the exposure to radiation would affect people in the future. The US government conducted a top-secret experiment in the city of St. Louis during the 1950s and 60s, exposing civilians to radioactive compounds in the process. It was known for quite some time that they sprayed what they claimed was a harmless substance called zinc-cadmium sulfide throughout the city. But as of recently, a professor at St. Louis Community College says that there was a radioactive particle mixed into the compound. This was mostly introduced to low-income and minority communities. This seems to add some truth to the chemtrail conspiracy theories, or at least a right to be suspicious. Number 6. CERN. Now, CERN isn't completely funded by the US government, but many international governments have came together for this mysterious and extremely expensive project. Each year, this project eats up about $1 billion, and the total cost is determined to be about $13.25 billion. So what on earth are countries coming together to fund and costing so much? They basically want to recreate the Big Bang as close as possible, which many people theorize was what started the creation of our universe. So clearly, this project won't be cheap. This takes place in a suburb near Geneva, Switzerland, and the largest particle physics laboratory in the world. The construction of the supercollider is a great achievement for science. Stephen Hawking claims that the power of CERN could easily, and without warning, destroy our universe, or at least create an apocalypse. Number 5. HAARP. The acronym HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program and was an ionospheric research program funded by the Air Force, US Navy, and University of Alaska, as well as DARPA. and built by Bay Advanced Technologies in Gakona, Alaska. It was originally just big oil companies who were experimenting with this until the government took over. It's a massive group of radio waves all linked together so they can all work as one. Each can generate up to 10,000 watts of electricity, and there's 360 of them all linked together. This fires one massive electric beam into the ionosphere, which is the uppermost part of our atmosphere, which then send radio waves back to Earth. The government claims to be using it for communication with deeply submerged submarines and to locate underground enemy bases. Conspiracy theorists believe that HAARP can be used to control the weather and create catastrophic earthquakes, hurricanes, and volcanic eruptions, although it might seem a little far-fetched. In a 2014 congressional hearing, a U.S. Air Force official did say that HAARP was used to control the ionosphere. The site in Alaska is closed down, but the technology is used all over the globe on naval ships and other large vessels. Number 4. U.S. infects Guatemalans. In 2010, the U.S. government finally came forward and admitted that it conducted medical experiments on the people of Guatemala in the 1940s. These people were basically infected with syphilis and other STDs. They used prostitutes, soldiers, and prison inmates as their guinea pigs, and eventually orphaned children. The projects were funded by the World Health Organization, Public Health Organization, and even the Guatemalan government, just to name a few. 71 died from syphilis, and 772 were purposely given the STD. This was done in order to find a cure for some of these STDs and to see if taking penicillin right after sex would prevent the transmission. Obama and Hillary Clinton eventually apologized for America during a press conference, but nothing seems excusable for these crimes against humanity. Number 3. Operation MK Ultra. We previously mentioned how France was exposed to LSD in the 1950s. This was a part of a larger project known as MK Ultra, where the CIA was experimenting with mind-altering drugs that they hoped would control people's minds, as well as brainwashing. The main drug they experimented with was, of course, LSD, which would cause mind-blowing hallucinations. Other things they experimented with as part of other projects include hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, sexual abuse, and/or psychological torture. They needed to find a way to extract information from people like captured spies. One operation of MK Ultra was known as Midnight Climax, where the government would test LSD on unwilling participants in San Francisco, mainly prostitutes. Once they were drugged, they then tested interrogation techniques. Sometimes the truth can be stranger than fiction, and we recommend that you take a look into this one for yourself as well. The CIA holds archives on this project on their public website, free to explore. Number 2. The Philadelphia Experiment. During World War II, we certainly had some of the smartest scientists at the time to conduct this experiment. With the minds of Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla and the crews who created the atom bombs, capable of destroying entire cities, was it possible we had an experiment with teleportation and invisibility as well? Many claim yes, and that this experiment was tested on a U.S. battleship called the USS Eldridge in 1943 at a Philadelphia naval yard. The Navy acknowledged the theory in this document, but they didn't deny or admit the claims. This project would have tested Albert Einstein's united field theory. The ship is engaged in an electromagnetic field, witnesses say, and it looked like it was consumed by a green fog, then disappeared. They weren't expecting to teleport, however, and reappears 400 miles away in Norfolk, Virginia. The boat came out fine, but the crew is a whole nother story. They molecularly attached to the ship, some caught on fire, and others would become periodically invisible. While there isn't hard evidence that the Philadelphia experiment truly happened, there was first-hand witness accounts by sailors. Number 1. Project 112. Project 112 was a biological and chemical weapons experiment conducted by the U.S. from 1961 to 1973 that started under the Kennedy administration. This shady project wasn't declassified until 2000 and after investigations were launched. Eventually, a press conference was given at the Pentagon by William Winkenwerder, and he disclosed some of the bizarre details of this project. Basically, during this period of the Cold War, if Russia had something, we needed it too, no matter the cost of the experiments. Intelligence Memorandum 101, they state how the government was quite worried about Russia's capabilities of launching a worldwide biological warfare attack. Our Project 112 was mainly concerned with the use of aerosol spray to spread chemical and biological weapons. Some of these tests, including spreading biological and neurological agents throughout the air, conducted on land and sea, including places like the US, Great Britain, and Canada. It seems as though the dispersion methods worked a little too well, and some civilians were exposed. During the press conference, Winkenwerder claimed that places like Hawaii, Florida, and Alaska were possibly exposed to neurological agents. A sub-project known as SHAD tested how naval ships would be affected by biological warfare attacks, which eventually led to serious health complications to those who were involved.